Okay. We will call the meeting to order. Luann is up first.
Yep. Can I just sit here?
Sure.
Yep.
Okay. I just was gonna update you guys on what we're doing. At first, you know, we were closed and, doing stuff by email and phone and whatnot and going down to the door and, you know, then we opened the building back up. And we went to appointments for our researchers that use the vault. Like, I'm not talking just popping in, but like are there for 4 hours, 2 or 3, 4 hours. It just, you know, varies. And then we lifted that. But then we started getting 4 and 5 and 6 people in at a time. And we just weren't real comfortable with that for them as well as us. So we went back to appointments for the researchers. If someone just needs to bring a deed in across the counter, they don't need an appointment, or do a quick, we have some people that just come in and do a quick name search on the front computer. They don't need an appointment. And then recently, as of Monday, we decided to go with requiring masks for not just out-of-town people, but everyone that comes in and does research. The Registered Deeds Association has checked into sanitizing books, our record books and stuff, and decided, and I already knew this because I've been doing this a long time, you cannot sanitize these books, these records. It'll deteriorate them, destroy them. We just can't let that happen. So in order, like, you know, Teresa missed down the courthouse, you know, at the end of the day or the weekend or whatever, we can't let her in our office to do that. So I feel like the masks are gonna help protect the books as well as us. So we started that. I have had a couple already that weren't happy about it, but one of them was looking for district court, so he didn't matter. And and the other one, you know, and I have some disposable ones I'll hand out to them, but the other one says, I'm not gonna put one on. He was just bringing a deed in. I had him sign in. I met him at the door, put my mask on, met him at the door, took his information, had him wait while I checked the deed, you know, and worked it out that way. But I just wanted to let you guys know that's
So are
what
you
we're
and
doing.
Beth wearing masks all the time?
We are when we have to go back to the vault and help them, or at the counter. But where we're at our desks, we're pretty far back. We are not. If we feel a situation comes up that we need to put them on, we will.
Well, I think the vault is a good idea because of the confinement,
Yeah,
so.
yeah, that's all I got. Just
It's
wanted to
your
let you.
office.
Huh?
It's your office. You.
Well, I know.
You need to do what you
I
want
just
to
wanted
do.
to let you know, and now Bryce knows she'll have to wear a mask.
Don't like that.
So that's it for me. But I'm just gonna sit in here and watch for a little bit.
Okay.
I make a motion to approve the minutes for the August 5th meeting.
Second.
Have a motion and a second to approve the minutes from August 5th. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carried. This is all the canvassing you have to do that for.
Typically by Friday, but if, I mean, they can extend it on till into the next week if they need to.
Public County is one of 5 counties that haven't done their canvassing, and there's 2 votes difference in their district on a representative race, and they're waiting on 52 provisional ballots there. And nobody will, I don't know when they're gonna do it,
So I would bet tomorrow.
but they have attorneys find us.
A lot of them
for
do.
miles.
A lot of them do it on Thursday, the Thursday after.
The Thursday after. Okay.
You know, it's,
Most of these were poll workers.
Yeah. And the visa bills.
Yeah.
I've never sat down and read the governor's order. You know, I kind of get the general gist of it. And I think Maxville's following the governor's order. But I think if we end up in an online school, all grades, even down to first and kindergartners, the teachers have to have active, online communication with them for 6 hours a day, 5 days a week. Which they didn't have that before. But you know, here on Maxville, which I think they're basically following the guidelines, it says in a moderate, school will be operated at 50% capacity, you know, rotating kids in and out. So if you have to have 6 hours of interaction with kids that are staying home learning online, and then you have the other half of the class, how is that possible?
I don't know, you're gonna have to ask the person that put that.
Are they just filming what's going on in the classroom and showing it to the kids online? That's what they're
Maybe
doing.
Is
they-
it Zoom so
maybe
they can
that's-
interact?
Yeah,
Maybe that's what they're,
I think that's what they're doing.
maybe, I have no idea.
Oh my God.
But I know when Lori had Zoom meetings with the kids, you know, they were interacting to where she could see them teaching and then asking the different kids questions. So I mean, if you're just sitting there talking to the kids in the class and the other kids are supposed to be watching.
I think they're filming what's going on in the classroom, and the kids at home are supposed to be watching that.
Yeah. And I don't know if the school's set up to do that. Because I mean, it's not like you just turn your laptop around and, I don't know.
Do they have a camera on the teacher? They'd have to stay in a certain spot all the time?
Yeah, but I mean, I think they'll,
Because they're gonna be moving around in the classroom.
yeah, I don't know, yeah, I have no idea.
I have no idea either. I thought about that too. Should we go get Mary?
Like,
Oh, that was good.
Is there someone standing there?
There was, they went in, there's two.
Julie's just sitting.
I wonder how many kids in the county.
They had masks on.
Okay.
How many kids in the county don't have good enough connection to actually get online?
Mike, you dropped something.
Man, Mary.
Are you ready for
Yeah.
me?
There you are.
I know Lori had
Okay,
two
sorry.
kids in her
Just
class
hollered at you.
that basically
You
said
did?
they didn't-
Holler. I wrote
You
it.
didn't holler very loud.
I just went to look for you and you were.
I think
Well, there were some girls
For what?
that they were gonna use, Maxwell was gonna use a school bus
maybe
to
not.
put in a Wi-Fi
Yeah, a booster.
booster and then go
No, I'm just gonna,
wherever.
I don't,
I'd like to talk to
Okay.
Randy sometime and see if you
You
could
good?
actually.
yeah, I'm good.
Okay.
I mean, that'd be helpful
Yeah.
if you could do that. All right.
Okay. First of all, what I'm actually here for is, I would like to increase Karen's motor vehicle funds for stipend, or compensation, I guess is what it's called, $100 a month
Out of the motor vehicle.
out of the motor vehicle fund.
Okay.
And the reason why is because we've got behind during the commercial vehicle season on our title approvals. And so she's been diligently working on getting those caught up, and she's done very well. She's been like my go-to person in this Superior at doing the IRPs. And now that Chrissy has had all the training, Chrissy has taken over a lot of the IRPs, but still Karen has really stepped in, and since Danny's gone, Danny did a lot. Danny was very knowledgeable in all of that too, but Karen's really stepped up to the plate, and she's just, I just feel like she's going above and beyond. And so I am wanting to raise her motor vehicle compensation $100 a month. And then also I'd like to tell you that right now, well, last year, at the end of the year, whatever's left in our motor vehicle fund, we transferred over to the county general. So last year, for the year of 2018, I transferred over $84,476.15 this year for the 2019, and I need to do that sometime this month, which is, hopefully I'll get it done this week, is I'll be transferring over $115,476.69. And that's gonna leave us, as of today, $105,000 in our motor vehicle. So, I mean, if by doing this increase for Karen, it's only gonna be
You got enough to
500.
cover.
I've got enough to cover, because it's only gonna be $500. So, and I'm not buying office decorations, and
So this is $100
it's just
Oh.
$100 a month.
a month?
A month, not, you know, so yeah, that's just, but yeah, I feel like that if anything that I want to decorate my office with should be my expense. So,
Is this $100 additional, the stipend she
Yes.
gets? What is that?
right now she's getting $100
So,
also.
So it'd be
but
increased to 200.
It would be increased to
Okay,
200
that's-
is what I'm wanting to do.
Am I wrong, in the past, I thought the treasurer had control of that we,
Well, it's my understanding, but
Does it-
I was just kind of told that I kind of need to
Well,
let you guys kind of
in the
know what
past, I
I'm
thought the
planning
treasurer-
on doing.
well, that might be right, but I thought
It
we
was-
didn't
But
have.
I don't
Since it-
know.
We told her to come in here since it had to do with payroll. I mean, if you guys don't wanna know about it, that's fine.
Oh, I think it's good to know about, but I don't know that we.
But we sent her in here and
Yeah,
just,
I think we'll just go, sounds good to me.
But
okay.
in the past, I'm pretty sure
Appreciate
okay.
it.
knew about
Yeah. I like more about it.
that.
Okay.
Dope. Well, I think that's all I had to. And I had a doctor's appointment yesterday. I got this swelling here. I just want to let you know, we're not sure what it is. If it's just fluid, just basic fluid from my surgery, they can just go in there and drain it off. But the doctor is gonna order an MRI, so I'm waiting for the radiology to call me to find out, because he said if it's spinal fluid, it's a different issue. So I just kind of want to give you all the heads up, but
Are you still feeling good?
I feel great. I
Get your
feel,
stamina back?
yeah, I do. I really feel good. I mean, I think I've gotten all of those, the high-powered drugs out of my system, the anesthesia, all that out of my system, and I've adjusted to my medications, but I don't know, it's still swelling, so. I mean, it had gone completely down, but now it's starting to come back, so kind of caused a little concern, so.
How are we coming on daily work?
Pretty good. We're like, what, I think 4 days behind now.
That's really
Is
good.
all, so yeah, it's getting better. So, we're getting there.
Yeah.
So I'm back and I'm ready to go, and I got a mission, so we're gonna hit it, I promise.
Well, good luck.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Come on.
In the past, we kind of encouraged them to use that. That's good.
Yeah,
She
we
can do
just,
that.
The motor vehicle fund?
Yeah.
Well, I think it was,
we just wanted you
We got
guys.
lucky.
yeah.
I would
Once
like
it does
this.
the remodeling.
I would like it to get run by us,
Oh, I wouldn't too. It's a good
because
idea.
if they did something drastic that we didn't like, then we'd end up having to come.
Well, if you got bounced on the street about it,
Yeah,
you need to know, yeah.
But they do have
Nobody
the
likes
authority
lines.
to do that if they want to.
yeah.
In the past, they didn't really use that.
And it is a significant amount of money.
Okay.
Zoning's not coming in for,
He can, his scheduled is 9 o'clock.
okay. I'd like to take a 5-minute executive session to discuss non-elected personnel.
Have a motion?
Yep.
Second?
We have a motion and a second to take a 5-minute executive session for a non-elected person.
I'd like the 3 commissioners need a and Bryce Garner, and
And
Rob,
Mike.
and Mike.
Okay?
Sure. Hi.
The executive session included Rob, Mike, Bryce, and the 3 commissioners that needed.
Yep.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carried.
It doesn't have, it's just a
We'll go
gimmick,
back
you
in.
know, Bay seasoning.
We'll open up the zoning hearing. Carl, what do you got?
Okay, this is a case that the zoning commission heard on July 8th in 2020. And, I'm sorry, we mailed the, it was published in the newspaper on 7/8, and we notified the property owners on 7/8. The hearing was actually on 7/27 at 8 p.m. at the annex. It was for a new and used trailers of different sorts. The zoning commission heard the case. They stayed in session for 2 hours and discussed it in detail. On the resolution, what you will be looking at, that since it's a special use permit, you guys have 3 options here to do today. You can make your decision as they approved it, you can send it back to them, or you can override the plan. That's your 3 options. It was disapproved 4-2 vote on there. And how it is on the resolution is how they actually made this recommendation or so forth. I don't have one from me, I give it to you. Right. You want to read it? One conditional was limited amount of all types of trailers to 24 because of the size of where it was going to be. It was going to be to start out with, it was going to be like a 10 by 10 sturdy built building, and then they was going to bring these trailers in and sell them by appointments and so forth. So the zoning commission didn't want any more than 24 trailers. The business hours, they requested is from 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. Monday through Friday, Saturday 9 to noon, and they had to be closed on Sunday with no traffic. If and when they build a structure, it could not exceed 30 by 40 size. This was denied though, so you're looking at this as a denial. So if you approve it, you're approving a denial, okay? Just to let you know.
I don't quite understand, when they, the zoning board disapproved, or does not want to approve it, then why do they have the special deals?
That's how they made the motion. At the time they made the motion, they didn't know it was going to be denied. They made the motion, there was a second, and then it was voted down 4-2.
Okay.
The main thing that was discussed, and here's some photos and so forth, it came down to, zoning was put in place for safety, for the community and so forth. The main reason it was denied is the zoning board felt like it was not the right location with all the dwellings around it, residential area around this facility, and that way, and then it was for the safety of the other residents and their family. So they didn't. It's not that they didn't approve of the business; it was the location.
Okay.
What they disapproved of. And you have one owner here that spoke actually at the meeting. I don't know if you want to open it to him. Okay.
Alan, do you?
Oh, like he said, we don't mind somebody starting a business, but not right next to us like that. And, looking at the place where they're gonna put this, if they had 24 trailers sitting there, we can see them from our living room, however you wanna put it, where we sit and watch TV and stuff like that. We can see part of that from our vantage point. And the traffic was something else that we were concerned about too, because there are young kids that live, you know, right. They have 2 kids, the Lee Devine and his wife have 2 kids. Matt Stock up across the road has 2 kids, so. And then we have 10 with 1 coming grandchildren that come occasionally. So we don't like to see a lot of extra traffic up and down that road. There's enough there as it is.
Is that road very well maintained or not?
It's fairly well maintained. Earlier this year, the manure trucks from the feedlot went by there and beat that road out real bad. You know how the feedlot trucks, or you know, manure trucks are, when they run down the road, they tear it up pretty bad by the time they get done.
So if we approve,
And the next one is the other way.
so if we approve this resolution, then we're approving the disapproval of the zoning board.
That's right.
All right, that's just want
It's
to make
kind
sure
of like
that
how you
was.
read it on a voting registration, isn't it?
It's a little confusing.
I'm voting not to do this, for this, so they can do that. And you know, with this case here, because I went back and I did my 17% as North Seward, and they actually took me through the house and showed me the actual visual that they would have had. And I think I'm willing to go into a little more detail if we get into these situations again, to look at the view from the neighboring properties. I think it kind of opened my eyes a little bit of going a little deeper and looking a lot closer, and maybe even inspecting the other properties, actually at, you know, the visual.
Yeah.
A big difference. Their view would have been right to this facility.
I mean, you hate to turn away business, but you can't devalue other people's property by however the business is.
That's right. And that's why we have zoning. That's the main, you know, for safety and then for that kind of thing.
What kind of trailers were?
They were gonna be kind of flatbed, 12, 16 foot would be their norm.
Not cattle trailers.
No, but it was gonna kind of be opened, you know, they wanted to get started at least, and they thought this would be a place to start. They had to be so many miles from, was it Wichita?
Yes, because Hutch was too close.
Yeah.
To get a license.
Dealership.
Yeah, a dealer license.
So basically, they just need to find a different location and everybody would be happy with it.
And that's what we're kind of, you know, I've already asked 2 different areas on Highway 281, and they don't want nothing to do with it.
So is this person-owned property anywhere else or?
No.
So it's somebody that, not local, that was trying to get.
Well, there's actually, the one that was, I mean, they live there now. They bought this house. This is where they live, this is where he lives. And then he had an actual silent partner that was going to, and the shed would have been, you would have came in back here
Okay.
on that specific area. So this was something else that they really didn't like, was the board, is having that far out in the county, having this type of business there at a residential area. Could cause some problems.
Did it put an additional burden on the sheriff's department as well?
Well, if it's out there, it's kind of open up for thefts or anything else. I mean, a trailer's easy to steal. You can just go in there and hook to it and off you go.
No.
And it
And
was
they're a
not,
mile from the highway and you lose them there, so
and it was not to be fenced.
yeah, if it's not gonna be
Not gonna be
fenced,
fenced.
no, it's just, no.
Yeah.
What if they put a fence around it?
There's already enough traffic from the north.
Well, if they put
Doesn't
it,
matter.
He couldn't try again if he put a fence around it?
I'd say no.
Not for location.
if they put a fence in, then the rest of us have to worry about the traffic, and they see stuff sitting at our place or Lee's place and stuff like that. So then, do we need to put a fence up or something, you know, to keep them from coming into our place?
Because you've got that little cluster of houses out there, and it just,
Well, it's the same situation we did when we had the proposed racetrack.
Do you
It
want
was
to,
gonna increase
what
traffic.
resolution number?
Who owns the racetrack?
That racetrack was straight across the section up by the highway.
2020-15.
That'd be a good place for it. front lot right there.
Yeah,
It's
good.
allowed.
Gardner.
Jones's.
That would be a good spot for it, right out there on the highway
I'll
there,
make-
for the old racetrack.
I'll make a
Because
motion that we
Republic-
accept resolution number 2020-15.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve resolution number 2020-15. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carried.
This is the official one, Nita?
Mhm.
That's it. Good job.
I'll take it home and file it.
How's your new truck run?
Truck's doing good, doing real good.
Yeah, I'll stamp it.
You put your okey dokey stamp
I'll
on
put
it?
the okey-dokey stamp.
Who is all on your zoning board? You
Okay,
just have 6 members?
no,
Is a 4-2 vote?
4-2, but one wasn't there, and president didn't, the chairman. David Rurz, more, and Greg Silverbrand, Deb Suter, Matt Miller, Ivan Milton, thank you. Mitch Menace,
Jenna.
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 Salem.
What's
She's actually the representative for the city of Hudson.
Zima. That's her name.
And Kristen.
I'm missing somebody.
Kristen Bergen.
Bergen, that's right. And she's the secretary. Good board. Good discussion. They had a really good discussion, good input from the community, and so, it went very well.
It was a good meeting. They hashed it all out.
This is the case for zoning board work?
We did. Thanks, everybody. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Joe.
Thank you.
Good.
Shannon?
Is she out there?
No, not yet.
We'll recess.
Morning.
Morning.
I have a few things this morning. So I would like to start doing like Monday, Wednesday, Friday updates rather than a press release each time we get a positive. So this is kind of what I've got typed up, so you guys can look at that and see what you think. And this is current for today, so.
You say bi-weekly or?
No.
Monday, Wednesday, Friday. I figured I'd just do the same as like what KDHE is doing. That's what they're doing on their site is Monday, Wednesday, Friday.
So the difference between the positive, I know the answer to this, but I just want to make sure the positive cases to the active positive cases, we've had 3 that's got over it and are fine, and then we've had
Well,
3
we've
that
had
are,
2 that got over it and fine, 1 death, and then the 3 that are active
the one
now.
that died in Wichita, okay? And so we have 3 active now, okay?
And pending cases, or pending tests still, but yeah.
And this is just going out on the internet, right? I mean, you're not sending that to KDH?
No.
Okay.
The one coronavirus death that we had, is my understanding the news in Wichita, they didn't have heart surgery. Oh, I heard he had heart surgery and died 2 days after the surgery.
That's the more misinformation.
Yeah, but he was 70 years old.
You tested negative before you get down there, right?
He tested negative in Stafford and then tested positive in Wichita.
So when he left Stafford and then went to Wichita and was there for a while before they tested him? And then in a couple of weeks, then they tested him and then he was positive. Okay.
But we have to count him because
Yeah.
he's a resident from here, so. I went ahead and I printed out this graph that KDHE had. It's just showing the counties, the big counties that went ahead and followed the mask mandate that was put out is the orange line, and then the smaller counties that opted not to is the blue line, and it's showing that the bigger counties actually did have a decrease in the amount of cases after putting the mask mandates in place, and the smaller counties kind of stayed stagnant, didn't really change a whole lot, didn't go up, didn't go down. With the amount of cases that we've gotten over the last handful of days, I'm concerned that if we continue in the upward trend, that it might be a problem for in-person learning for schools here. So I have typed up what we kind of talked about at our Tuesday lunch meeting. I tried to get it to print onto one page front and back, and it didn't do it right before I left, so it's, and I can't condense it down, it's not letting me do it. I can make edits to this, but this is kind of what we had talked about doing for having a mask order in place for Stafford County, and we're really creeping up on that.
You do realize they corrected that map later, they had a different access for the, it was incorrect.
This was what was sent to me 2 days ago.
Yeah, it's been updated since.
Okay.
They use a
So-
different Y-axis for the no mask versus the mask.
So how much did it change it?
They're very comparable to each other right now. The blue line is flat though. The other line went down, but the yellow line is above the blue line.
There's something written on the back that explains it a little bit too. Yeah, I wanted it all on one page, and I messed with it this morning until I was like, I've gotta go, so I didn't get it on there. And we are asking everybody that comes into our office to wear a mask, so. We've had a lot of traffic with back to school.
Elisa brought this in
Oh,
this morning.
St. John's?
I've given you the other two.
Yes, yep,
Okay.
yep.
And then this is, if you wanna do that, public.
So what'd you say about this was what?
That map was wrong, it's got a different Y-axis for the one side and the other. If you look on KDHE now, it shows you a new graph. They wouldn't make any comment on it, but they did change the graph after it was called out.
So the yellow line is above the blue line now?
I haven't seen that one. Like I said, that one was emailed to me a couple days ago, and I haven't gone and looked for it on their website,
Where
so
do I find it on here?
I didn't know
Actually,
it
that's
was
a grain
posted
analyst.
online.
What?
It's all
Oh,
over.
there was a grain analyst that called, that emailed me the other day, like just from an
So-
analytical, statistical point of view, was going off on how that was not a correct way to present data.
That was a bad one. He got called out pretty badly on that one. That line is still 77% higher than that line right now. It is trending down, I will say that, but the blue line is basically flat. And that line
Which is about-
should have been drawn up here, is what, if you see how that number doesn't compare to that number.
Oh, okay.
He used different numbers on one side compared to the other.
I can't find it.
So the no mask is still trending around 9%.
Yes. And this line, if you would have used the same axis, trends
Mhm.
over here close to 17.
On your positive cases, or active cases, I mean, once they test coronavirus, I mean, they basically need quarantine for 14 days, right?
until their symptoms are gone.
So the symptoms are,
10 days from their symptom onset or 72 hours symptom-free, whichever is longer.
okay.
And nobody has gone only 10 days so far. It's been past the 10 days, so we have to do the 72 hours symptom-free.
And then to be, then to be a positive case that's not active, do they have to test positive? Or do they have to test negative, or just once
Just the
there's symptoms?
symptom-free.
Yeah.
The people that are contacts of a positive are the ones that do the 14-day quarantine to make sure they don't become symptomatic in those 14 days. So that's what the first number on that one, the table that I have for you is the 16 orders that are out for the people that are contacts. So they're quarantined for 14 days, waiting to make sure they don't become symptomatic. If they become symptomatic, then they go get tested, and if it's positive, then they're isolated.
Shannon, are you considering any type of test, a valid test, or I guess it's my understanding that there's a quick, rapid response?
There's a
Type
rapid
test
and there's a
or-
send out, and a lot of the places that are doing the rapid are also doing a send out test,
Okay,
so that they can
so like if
confirm
you were
it.
to go to the urgent care in Great Bend, like they have the big billboard that says results in 15 minutes, they're also sending it off
So you get
to-
swabbed twice.
Okay, okay. I had read some stuff that
So
there's a
does that mean-
discrepancy on,
So the,
you know,
some of the
which one's
rapid
better.
tests only have like a 95% accuracy, so those, if they're running the test that only has that 95%, they run a send out test that is the 99% accuracy too.
Okay,
The places that have, the other machine, Cepheid machine, that one has a 99% accuracy, so those places typically are not sending out a send out test too,
yeah.
but the
But
ones
the
that are doing
rapids
the
are generally
BioFire,
pretty decent at 95.
yeah, but they, just so that they don't have a false positive or a false negative, they do a send out test too,
Okay.
Because that 4% is significant.
yeah.
Yeah, over 47 million.
And I
Tests.
mean, we wait until we get both results back before we consider
Okay.
somebody negative or positive. If they get a positive with the rapid, we ask that they still stay home anyway.
Yeah.
I mean, but they're supposed to be staying home until we get a result back.
Okay.
They don't get to go out and about until their result is back.
Do all the people that you're doing contact tracing on go get tested? There's no requirement to get tested.
If they're symptomatic, they go get tested. If they're asymptomatic, they just stay home.
On the second case you had, did a relative of the one go get a test and then back out of the test? Did you hear about that?
No.
I heard that a relative, they thought he ought to get tested. And he went and applied and then didn't get tested. And it came back positive, but he never got tested. Yeah.
I've never heard any of that, so I don't know.
So, night dreams.
I mean, I heard it straight from the guy. Yeah. I know it wasn't reported that way at least. I said, well, I don't think that's right because it wasn't ever reported.
No.
But I don't know if they sent the information. I would think they would have sent the information to you, not to him, right?
Yeah, they would have sent it to me, so I didn't get
So
any of
that can't be it.
No.
That's what I thought.
So the ones we're seeing now are
I hate to
middle
tell a guy that he's.
We're not seeing any elderly.
They're 20s to 40s here.
The ones who are non-compliant.
And that's what worries me about school. I'm afraid if we keep trending the way that we are over the last handful of days, and I mean, we've got 16 people that are contacts of positives, that's a high probability of having more cases over the next couple of weeks. If we end up with a lot of positive cases in our community, that's not going to look well for them starting in-person learning for school. It concerns me.
Were the last two cases in the same family?
I can't say that.
Do we have any cases that are in the hospital now?
No.
Okay.
The one that was in the hospital has been discharged to home. but is still symptomatic.
So on the, on the first deal where you have 4 or more active positive cases in Stafford County, or 1 or more active positive cases in a school district, how does the overlap work on that where Maxville School District runs into Edwards County? And I mean, Stafford County's on the edge. So I mean, Stafford's school district is huge. So if we have 3 active cases in Stafford County, or 2 active cases in Stafford County, and then Edwards County has 1, that would be considered Maxville School District. Do you put those together?
So if the active cases for the county overlap with the school, then it just kind of is all one thing. I just figured if it's a child in the school that's an active positive,
Yeah.
then it affects the whole school individually. Like if it's an elderly person in the community, it probably doesn't have as much of a pull on the school district. That's why I kind of separated the 2 out.
And I mean, it works good for St. John, where St. John School District's in Stafford County. And I'm not real familiar with how far Stafford School District goes east and south, but I do know that there is probably more, when you say there's more of Maxville School District is out of Stafford County.
I
they
know
may
that a
go
lot of
in
the
there.
students that are at Lewis
You've
get
got
passed over.
428 that comes down from the north, you've got 401 that comes in, you've got
3
310.
different ones.
You've got all kinds
Well,
of school districts.
Like I
coming
said,
in
this
here.
is a draft, I
Skyline
can
comes
change
up.
this.
Yeah, I just
So
want.
So,
I brought it for you guys to look at, and if there were things that needed to be edited, I would be happy to do that. Just trying to get something in place that we could have a plan and be ready for school.
Really, the HIPAA requirements are very hindering, aren't they?
And I know there are a lot of people that are frustrated that we won't give location, but we only have 4,200 people in our county. I can't give a location and still be able to maintain HIPAA for those patients. It's not fair to them to give a location because people will just sit there and try to figure out who they are, and that's not fair. Nobody wants to be diagnosed positive with this. Nobody wants to be pestered about it while they're at home recovering. We need to be kind to those people. It's not something that anybody has a right to know, and I don't feel that disclosing their location is anything that needs to be done. It would definitely become a HIPAA problem.
Yeah.
All the counties that are doing that, larger.
Yes. I mean, we only have one bordering county that's doing that. And they have a much larger population than we do.
So on this line here, follow KDHE travel and quarantine guidelines for travel restriction areas, activities and establishments. Is that just like when we had, if you travel to this county or this state and you come back, you have to self-quarantine?
And they just updated that yesterday, so we don't actually have a state that's on our quarantine travel list. They've changed it to if you've gone to a group gathering of 500 plus anywhere. So even if it's in-state or out of state, that's a quarantine mandate. And then international travel is still on there. Which I'm kind of hopeful that people are able to just do the self-quarantine at home, and if they have questions, call us, but I don't know where people are and what they've done, so it's kind of trusting people to do what's right.
Shannon, the out-of-state gatherings is the only thing that applies to the 500 plus.
I got an email yesterday that said they changed it again. Okay.
It was a clarification, they said.
So they say-
Okay, so
what'd
it's
they
only
say?
out of state, 500
Out of
plus.
state, if you attend an out-of-state gathering that has 500 plus
They went back.
people, then you have to come home, you have
He
to
waited till I got up there.
in-state. But wait, and maybe tomorrow it'll be different.
Oh, sure.
If they want to do that.
Subject to
I'd be
change,
comfortable with the plans they have.
subject to immediate change.
Yeah, that changes quite often.
It's your
And I
fault.
didn't get that until,
There's
Here's
no
the-
states on the list now, though.
Public
No.
health
Unless you want to wait another week and see what
that we're talking about. You wanna see that, right?
happens in the next.
Oh, do you want to look at any of this
7
stuff?
days.
Sorry,
No, you're.
I don't really need any of it.
This
I've
is
got it on
what's
my
waiting
computer,
is,
so
I
if
mean,
you
the
want it.
schools
This
are
is, there's three.
trying to figure out what they're gonna do, so the more.
They
we
each
push
have
them
their
on.
plan in place.
Yes.
Um,
It looked like Maxwell and Stafford are going to have all students wear masks. St. John was doing grades 5 and up.
This basically just allows the schools to develop their own plan,
Yeah,
the resolution.
It's
Or the
not a
public- the
resolution.
public
Yeah,
health
it's
order.
a public health order that, Tracy Becker is coming to meeting at 9:45, so you wanna wait to hear, talk to her, but I
Yeah.
just wanna make sure you're,
Mhm.
since they each three have their plans in place.
Mhm.
I just don't know how, on kindergartners and first graders, you can't get them to quit picking their nose and eating their boogers, but you're gonna tell them they gotta wear a mask all day.
Well, just from my point of view, my 4-year-old puts a mask on and wears it fine, because I've talked to her about it. So if parents will sit down and have a discussion with their kids and have a positive attitude, that sets a tone with the kids. So if they will do that, it will be helpful. It won't make it a breeze, but it'll make it helpful, because that's what I did with my daughter.
And I've heard several parents say that, you know, but there's a difference between having one 4-year-old in front of you or 20.
Yes, there is a difference.
And I mean, if you're walking around the classroom all day
There-
going, no, do this, no, do this.
I'm not
how
saying
much
it's gonna be
teaching?
easy, but I think if parents would do a little bit of education at home with their kids before they go, it would make a big impact too.
I agree with
I
that.
agree, this peer pressure is tough to overcome.
But there is some good peer pressure, and if there are kids that are doing it correctly, the other kids will see that too.
That's true.
That's true, yep. You can go back to your own grade school days and see who's influencing you.
Yes, yeah. So I know it's gonna be
And I never did.
hard for the tutors, I'm not saying it won't be.
Yeah. And the parents always, the parents always still have that knowledge that they can keep their kids out most of the time.
Yes,
Few that were always trying to do.
And I mean, that would be
exactly
the best case scenario.
yeah.
I mean, if you homeschool your kids, you know exactly what's going on.
Shannon, does St. John's have anything for younger than 5th grade? I talked to a school board member and they said that there might be something.
So it says if we're at a high restriction, that it would be masks for everybody, but for low
Okay.
and moderate, they've
But
got
for
5
low and
and up.
moderate, there's nothing.
5th grade, yeah.
And it passed the school board
Yeah.
the other
On
night.
Monday.
And I think even in the moderate, on the, it's recommended for elementary, but not mandated.
Yes, it's recommended for all students for
Okay,
both
maybe
low
that's
and
what it
moderate,
said.
but it's
Yeah.
not mandated.
That if, you know, some of the teachers like say, her 4-year-old or whatever, you got a 1st grader, you can send them to school wearing a mask. There's
Yeah.
nothing that says you can't wear a mask.
Right, and that, I mean, I'm gonna send her with her mask,
Yeah.
so,
And I mean, I think a lot of the elementary teachers are gonna try to get the kids to wear
sure,
masks.
yeah. I figured they
It's just,
probably
you're not
will,
gonna reprimand a 1st grader.
Well, no, you
without
can't
on, or a
really.
Kindergartner, yeah.
Yeah.
whenever they don't understand it.
And I heard Stafford had a place to go for if you want to be mask free. I mean, you know, like a certain area or something. I have no idea where that's at. You wouldn't want more than one in there at a time. But
Mm-mm.
designated places in the room where you can go to take your mask off.
Yeah.
That'd be interesting. Phil needs his whistle.
It's just gonna be,
Well, they've even gone as far to get, to have electronic whistles now.
To have what?
Electronic whistles now.
How does that work?
on their
You
phone.
carry your phone? and-
I don't know how it works,
If you get within 6 feet, your phone goes off, or?
but that's what they were talking about instead, so
If they wanna
an
wait.
official could wear a mask.
They'll probably come up with
You're good
something.
with it? Okay.
Oh, it's just,
Is this for
for me?
It's those little
Yes, okay, yes.
compressed air.
On this deal here,
Sure, stop play.
See, minimize essential travel. So what, down here, I mean, I don't see anything about that. Was that looked at?
No, it was me making an error, so
Oh,
I'll add
okay,
it.
okay. So I was like, what?
No, it was me working on it yesterday while we were busy, and I probably typed over it and didn't notice, so I'll put that back on that section.
And so basically, the difference on the two deals would be, the groups of from 30 to 15, and then the,
Pause in athletics, just to make sure.
and so I don't, the first stage shouldn't affect the schools because the classroom sizes will be under, majority will be under. And then if we go up to this 10 and more active cases, then we will probably be into the moderate to high over here. So this really isn't gonna affect the schools. And I do think the schools on their lunchroom deal, I think to split their lunchrooms up to the lunchroom, the gym, and the deck,
Yeah,
to spread them out.
that's kind of what they all said. Yeah, they're trying to limit the classes that are in there at a time, and then they're trying to spread them out. And they also talked about potentially doing assigned seating too, so they know what kids have been around, what kids. And they'll, I think, plan on doing that with breakfast too, just because they know the kids that come in for breakfast every single day too.
It's assigned seating in the classroom and the bus, everywhere.
And I think they're trying to spread them out as much as they can. Like in Lori, or in first grade, I think it used to be more like pods, but now they're spreading them out and then having them face the same direction
Yeah.
where they're not facing
How like
each
it was
other.
when you were in school.
Yeah,
Pardon?
Exactly. Well, yeah.
We're going back to the old style school.
Oh, you mean where you got
Face
one
the
desk sitting in the corner?
You're sitting by the teacher.
My desk was always in the corner.
And there's a seating chart. so-
Yeah.
So do we need to approve
The
this?
teacher already knows my name.
That's
Understand
kind
what
of what I was looking at, and I'll make the edits and I can send
We
it to
can never
Nina so
read the
she
weekly
can send it
readers
to you
as we
guys
was always
too.
getting spanked.
Do you want that published on the website?
After I make my edits. to
Yeah.
it.
Okay, okay.
Is there any other things that you would want added or taken off of that before I send it to Nina?
So on the mask are required in public areas, I mean, is that just considered convenience stores? Okay.
Like if you're
City
at home with
office.
your family, then you don't have to do that, but like if you go out to the grocery store or the gas station or city office or wherever in town, you should have one if you are out in public.
But I mean, if you're just walking down the street, you're fine.
Outside.
If you're pumping gas, you're fine.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it's just like, we're not trying to keep this a secret. It's a federal HIPAA requirement that you cannot disclose location or individuals' names. And
I know it's upsetting a lot of people, but I
Yeah.
am not going to do it.
I mean,
yeah, well, you could do, not a specific location, but
there are
a general
counties,
location.
counties are given,
I just feel like how small ours is though, it's just not
I
conducive.
agree with you.
If you decide
I
to
have
do it,
had,
you should do it in our
people
districts.
torched off that.
I have to.
I said, and I don't even know where they're at, so I said,
If it actually come down
People
to
are
it,
getting kind of ugly with me.
you could say it's in a District 1, District 2, or District 3,
I
which that
could.
would be a huge area. Because if you say, well, it's in Maxville, that's a small community, it's easy to figure it out.
Well, that's how I feel with any of them here. I mean, if I say Maxville, Stafford, St. John, Hudson, Seward, Radium, anybody's gonna figure out who it is that way. It's just not fair to the person that's recovering.
Yeah,
I agree with you on that.
right, yeah.
I've had a lot of people
Yeah.
torched off.
I know, but I just don't feel
Think
like it's
they need to think
necessary.
about that a little bit.
They do. I mean, if it was them, would they want us to do that to them? They probably wouldn't, so they need to kind of think about it that way.
Right. Yeah, I've got people even calling me. I
Oh,
don't know.
I do too.
don't know. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah.
I said, I don't know and I don't want to know.
Yeah,
Well, I said before, Shannon, we're behind you 100%, so.
thank you.
Have you used any of the contact tracing yet from the state?
Not yet. We haven't really,
Anemometer.
yeah, we haven't really needed to yet, but if we have enough more, then we will use them to help. Cause like last night, we got the phone call at 4:45 that we had our next positive, and I didn't leave the office until 7 o'clock or after, so.
Is it you and Emily doing all that?
And we've been having Rob and Tom deliver quarantine orders because it's quicker that way rather than waiting for the 5 or 6 days through the mail. We're calling the people, but having the letter in hand is important, so they've
What
been
if that
doing
as
that
quick
for
as
us.
they
What happens if you need to quarantine somebody and they just say, no, I ain't doing it? I mean, do we have any teeth?
You've had to
Well,
send a few
I've-
people home, haven't you guys?
To make, yeah.
Yeah.
And in the letter that I'm sending out, there is a statute that's put in there that says you have to be following this order. So,
I'm not sure what it was, but Martin County had cases where they were not staying at home and they actually winded up, I think, doing an arrest and
Yes,
quarantining and
yes,
on-
because
on
I'm-
arrest.
I don't remember what this.
That's fine, they
there
can
is
do that,
something in
because they
there.
have their own jail.
Yeah.
No one will
Yeah.
take.
Oh, no.
So there, I
No,
have,
but
I
there
have
is
no
something,
teeth.
there's a law
Unless you do,
listed in that
of
letter,
course,
so they know that
civil
they, and it
proceedings.
says in there, if
Yeah.
you're not following it, you could have legal action taken
That's
on
the
you,
tough
so.
part.
Yeah, we have no teeth at all.
What would we do? I mean,
Everything we do nowadays, they have to be medically cleared.
Has everybody
It's just-
so far been pretty cooperative?
Yeah.
I would say if you have somebody that doesn't quarantine them, then you need to be able to put their name out in public and say, you see that person coming that way?
You still can't do that.
Well, you should.
You get in
I
trouble.
mean, you can. I mean, if you
I
have
agree.
somebody that she said to quarantine and they are active and they go around every place in this county, I mean, that could be a train wreck.
It could be.
But then you,
And that's what she's trying to
then you're
avoid.
kinda handcuffed by, you can't release the information.
Mhm.
I'd like to put the leg tracer on.
Yeah, but what are you gonna do, call everybody?
And you don't have to give us that indemnity out if you put one of them on.
I'd just say Rob ought to follow him
Where's
around
mine?
with his red license on or
You'd at least know where they were at.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I actually don't have a problem with
So we need a COVID dog.
There you go.
And if they're cooperative, they shouldn't care anyway.
Alright.
Thank
I will
you.
make those edits. and
Do we
get
need
back
to make
you.
this a?
Do you want to wait to talk to Tracy when she gets here?
She's here now.
Okay, you're gonna let Carolyn go first?
I'm flexible with time,
Let's
as
do
long as
Tracy.
I'm done by
Tracy,
11.
while we're on that
Tracy.
subject.
You got time to stay? Okay.
Come in, we need to discuss this.
Oh, yeah. Oh, I was waiting my turn.
Good, how are you?
But do we need to make a motion to approve these here, or just,
Well-
this is what they order? Because I mean, this
Just
is.
this,
Just-
Yeah, I understand that, but as far as Shannon said.
No.
You were just notifying us of what you.
Yeah, I just wanted you to look
recommendations.
over it and make sure you guys were.
And you've got a few tweaks you're gonna make
Yeah.
to it.
Yeah.
Yes.
No, this is, the public health order is what you guys need to.
Yeah.
Do you have any comments then, Tracy, on the health order or any, whatever you want to share with us from
Well,
school?
I guess I can share that we had our board meeting Monday, and I think 37 years in education, I've never seen such a divide in people over the mask order for schools, and some of them are very legitimate. So we have a handful of teachers very concerned about their own safety, that they're going to come back in the presence of children, and they want the kids to wear masks, and then you have another swing of adults that this isn't safe for my kids, the anxiety. I mean, they just, we had our first meeting and we're tugging and messing with it, so they're looking at, through the lens of how is a child going to manage focusing on learning, when they're in there. So the board had decided that for Stafford was to bring, everybody's required to have a mask when they enter the building. We're very comfortable with temperature checks before they enter the building. We figured a schedule for that. We're very comfortable with the hand washing. But there was a split on how do you manage the mask portion of it. But we all agreed they have to have them when they come in. But the board gave the teacher the professional judgment of keeping the kids safe. If they can distance them and they feel like the kids and themselves are safe enough to manage when they have mask breaks or whatever, but transitioning, going to lunch, all the movement, they're very supportive of having the mask as a recommendation. And then to allow those families that say, my child is not going to do so well, or they have a health condition, that will accommodate that. So very supportive of the mask, but just basically the decision they made was to allow the teachers the professional judgment to keep themselves and the kids safe by managing how much they're on once they're in the classroom. So
Are they taking temperatures at home then, or?
it's recommended, but our experience, and again, 37 years in education, is that sometimes they get masked. That the parent needs to hurry and get to work, so they might mask it with Motrin or something. So we want to watch that. We have teachers, we've trained them to just immediately let the nurse know if they're not looking so good and it wore off or something.
But you're not checking them all in school?
We are checking them before they enter the building for staff and students. So
Okay.
we have it lined up, and we have a system, and we have doors where it's manned, giving PPE for those adults that are checking them. Yeah, we're gonna do that.
Okay.
And then with Acacia, for the activities, all the coaches are being trained before they start any activity, that they do temperature checks and masks when they're not participating in an exercise. So we are supporting it to an extent. This allows us to have a little bit more flexibility if we can keep ourselves and the kids safe, so.
Right. You can adopt your own that way, your own ideas.
And we're following it pretty close, but just that freedom of not the whole entire day having them on, to just give some flexibility.
Okay. Sounds good. Thank you for the information.
Yeah.
Yep. And I feel like this resolution, or this public hearing order that we're talking about passing, I mean, basically that just allows our school boards and superintendents to do what best is what they feel is best, takes out of the hands of the state.
I think our school boards are gonna do what's in the best interest of their kids as much as they can.
I will add to, and just mimicking, because met with Josh and met with Greg, so we're on the same page, is that, if the cases grow for us and we're still able to have some small groups, I mean, we put it in there that it'll be mandatory for everyone 100% of the time. So we're kind of watching the cases too.
I imagine this will be a learning experience and a very fluid, a lot of changes going on.
I'm thankful for the experts, because this is not something, in 37 years I've ever had to deal with, so.
Nobody has.
So do I just, we need to approve this?
Just adopt the public health order?
Okay, I make a motion that we adopt the Stafford County Board, County Commissioners Public Health Order.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to adopt the public health order as of August 12th. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, no. Motion carried.
Okay, thank you.
Goodbye.
Yeah, this is more than just a case of impetigo.
Yeah, exactly. So, all right.
I'll get you a signed copy of that. I'll email it.
Yeah, perfect, all right, thank you.
Did you want a copy of the health, or I guess Shannon's gonna make a few?
Yeah, I'm gonna make some edits to it,
Okay.
then I can send it out to you guys.
Perfect, all right, thank you.
Do you find anything about the trailer?
About the what?
The trailer, the container?
Oh, I got bids for that and electricity and installation.
Okay.
I need to call and get one for the concrete, still I haven't gotten that done.
What you been doing?
I just wondered if you've worked it in your busy schedule.
Yes, I've gotten a big chunk of it bid out,
Maybe
but
you'd
I
like to
haven't.
step up and help her out a little bit there,
I
Mr.
feel proud.
Retiree.
I feel proud.
I'd help
Yes,
you
I've
make
got
phone
a-
calls
I've
if
got
you
a
needed
big
help.
chunk of that taken care of, the bids anyway, I just need to get called for the concrete for it,
20-footer, 40.
20. We did 20, I think that'll be okay. All right, thank you guys.
Thank you.
All right. That's something, I need to do something.
No,
that's
it's
it.
just your public notice.
Environmental.
No recess, like, you know.
We'll recess.
So,
Okay, we'll decide that later.
Okay.
Okay, Carol.
Okay, Spark plan. This has been reviewed by John Albright. It has not gone through the full internal review process. It's Swindle, Jansen.
Say that again.
So they have an internal review process so that it's not just one accountant who's, signing off on it. It has not gone through that full internal review process.
So the first review, this has come through, but it hasn't went through the internal review.
Correct. So, it's all very small to read, but so 832,000, or rather 823,000 is the full allocation of Stafford County. The way it is broken out, 201,000 is for the county directly. They put that in they call it a planned independent expenditure. I guess to even step back a step. We talked a lot about the reimbursement process, hindsight being 2020. We should not have been talking about reimbursements because the way that they look at that is if the county has cut a check, you're reconciling it against like an actual bank transaction, that is a reimbursement. But the county hasn't paid out to any of the entities, of course, really hasn't even paid much in terms of its own expenses, maybe some, but not a lot. Because if you haven't budgeted for it, you haven't expended it. And by definition, these funds can't be used for something you've already budgeted for. So it's kind of an odd.
Mm-hmm.
So what we've decided makes sense for Stafford County is to put in a 0 on a reimbursement report and put it all in the direct aid plan. And so then you're essentially budgeting for that, and if they approve it, then you can proceed to, work with the various entities or get the reimbursements to yourself. So the county these are the county expenditures, which primarily is what Nita prepared in cooperation with some of the other department heads. The one kind of modification, I guess, that
Are we on this page or the
yes,
second?
it's a
Second
planned
page.
independent expenditure. Misty Blakesley had told me about a piece of medical equipment that if we can get that in there would be something they would, so it's in there, so that kind of, and then you had a category that was essentially contingency. Well, they don't want to see anything as contingency, it needs to be assigned to something.
We tried.
I know, so it got put into PPE. So there's a lot of allowance for PPE, but there is also the ability to amend things toward the end of the year and,
But
if
chances are PPE is what we would spend anything additional on, is what Philip and I were thinking.
Should
So
that-
that's fine.
Should that be an even number though? or- I
Well,
mean, can we
For-
come up with the $60,000?
Mhm.
I mean, that just looks a little.
Well, they kind of want them to be. In fact,
Mhm.
if anything, what we kind of should have done
We
differently.
need to round.
Everything should have been in round. I mean,
Really?
he
Yeah.
spent a lot of time talking with us about the idea of the importance of, detail to attention to detail related to invoices and exact numbers. And there will be that, but it's really at the point that we're actually cutting the checks back and they have to, we have to have them, but right now, it's essentially just budgeting.
They don't know a lot of detail.
And it really created a lot more work than we should have done at this stage of things
Okay.
to look. On the other hand, because some of them were based on actual either, in some cases, the schools have actually, paid an expense or at least ordered it, and it really is a number that is defined. Maybe these budget numbers are pretty good for those categories, but.
I just assumed they probably wanted the detail, but maybe not.
I don't think at this point they do. Now, if we get audited, we need to have the receipts
Oh, yeah.
with the I mean, that's when you get down to details. Like she said, this is just kind of a budget,
All right,
is,
all right.
is a great way
Yeah,
to explain
so,
Yes, yes.
that some of them gave a lot of detail because that's what we said. And then he told me to go back and try to consolidate, and I didn't do as much consolidation on the counties as I did on some of the other ones, but I really tried to push them into just one category for health and one category for med. And,
Oh, Shannon, of course, I guess this is what we already have locked in, there's 10 grand, but I don't know if that'll do.
For what?
I don't think it will.
For the PPE, the $10,000.
In phase two,
Yeah.
Shannon also is going to get buku bucks
Right.
just for the health department. So we put that in there to kind of free up money for our other things. But she
Okay.
can then get phase two money, which is just for the health department,
Okay.
which could take care of the concrete, the,
Electrical and stuff like that.
exactly. So we just stuck that number in for now.
Carolyn, is this administrative in the audit? That's for
So-
everything, so that won't be in
That's
each individual, yeah.
That's for the fee that the county's paying Swindle,
Yes.
Jansen, Hawk and Lloyd, $35,000.
But that's not on
And then-
anyone else's, like USD 349,
No.
that's the
I
total
talked
fee.
to Melissa, and Adams Brown will do the audit, and she said they charge about 7,000. So I relayed that to Karen, so
So that's
Carol
what
wants
we're
to.
to. It's 35,000 for Swindle and 7 for the single source audit.
Well, this is another topic, but while we're talking about that container for the health department, I told Shannon in the hallway, because she talked about electrical, I said, make sure that you have them put a big enough service out there that in the future, if they buy something that needs to be climate controlled, that we could put an air conditioner unit in the building. We don't have to do that now, but I'd hate to say we gotta do it, then they're gonna go upgrade the electrical all the
Yeah,
way back.
no, that can come out of phase two with her funding.
So her bid may change a little bit.
So all these figures need to be rounded up.
Well, I think we're okay. I mean, he's reviewed it and there's,
I think in phase two, we now know more what to do.
I don't
Don't
think,
we?
yeah, well,
I mean,
we will have, this is the webinar I need to go to at 11. They're gonna actually talk about phase two finally, and the applications will open up tomorrow, no kidding. I don't think that, the county will be positioned to do as much of the application process in phase two. Maybe there's a piece of it that I'm not paying attention as close to what the health department's, but like for businesses, you gotta make an application directly to the state is what I understand so far, so.
the way I understood Shannon is health departments need to apply for X amount of dollars, and she's
Oh.
qualified for up to $700 and some thousand, which she won't touch that. But that's the way I understood what she told me early on, was that she does have to apply for it, but she's pretty much guaranteed.
Maybe she,
Well, if we can push more of it into that category, I'll get into it later, but we can absorb some funding into other areas that we typically have to really,
maybe she gets
Search
some drones, she can go out and do the surveillance of the.
Lock
I
them
just-
up.
She's been behind the eight ball for months on this,
Yeah.
so.
I was wondering how sewer comes with
Just know it's like
7,000.
laundry.
they actually had 27,000, I'll tell you. I mean, they initially said nothing, and so we didn't kind of hold anything back And they came back and they said they wanted 27,000. 7,000
If they're
for
responsible
doing
person,
sanitation station at the park, which
If you would have been
is drilling a well, and I think we just don't wanna talk about it's drilling a well.
consider yourself.
I mean,
But on here,
It's
it's
just
7,000.
7,000, okay, so she broke it out as 7,000
Or
for
you
the
get those, they'll
sanitation
kinda get
station
them.
and 20,000 to put in bathrooms in the park. And at this point, I'd already given a, kind of a budget allocation to the Western District, really allow
It's
$2,700.
So what is
County.
exactly the
So-
sanitation station?
The wash basin.
Yes, that's what I interpret it to be, especially if they've got water piped to it, that's what I interpret it to be.
I'm just looking at, I'm wondering how St. John only came up with 14,000. Like, is there not more that they could
Well,
do?
that
Like,
was.
it looks like you guys did a good job, with 88,000.
Well, this is also between the districts.
Yes.
Yeah.
So-
Yeah.
So,
St. John worked
Yeah,
with their
St. John
school
school
district,
district
and
got
the
more.
school needed more, they
Absolutely.
gave it, but that was between them.
Yeah,
yeah,
I'm just
it
looking
was
at them.
very much. Josh and Jamie worked
Yeah.
together before they submitted anything, so. And not all of them submitted something that perfectly added up to 183,000 or whatever. So that's where, there's been a little bit of room to kind of move it. Okay, so I ended up trying to help Seward in the way that they asked and put 7,000 in for their smaller, their two pieces. But that does put the Western District slightly over its, 1/4 allocation. So if I were to kind of look at the overall breakdown, if that matters to you, it doesn't matter to the state, as how we're dividing it around the county, but if it matters to you, the county-wide program is essentially getting, including, I'll get to this, a piece that is kind of a program as they want to name it, which could be funneled through or administered by economic development. It includes parse, okay, I'll get to that. So $300,205 is where that is. Western District, $185,900. Central District, $179,345. And the Eastern District, $158,482. But two of the things that they were asking for in the East District were things that we got guidance would be better handled as a program. And so we do have Stafford cover another 25,000 to bring it up to the same level as the other two. And that is primarily housing and money for the Ministerial Alliance. Stafford had 25,000 and budgeted for those two things. So, I don't know whether that makes sense to skip, it's the last page on your sheet here.
On the, on Maxwell, it has technology to allow social distancing or implementation, social distancing. 13,000, I've noticed that in a couple of the cities' deals. What is that? Very first line on Maxwell. I know Stafford had it in there
Safety
too.
equipment,
Ours was only 1,000, wasn't it?
Stafford.
I'm looking
Or is
at,
that school?
well, okay, I don't see the
Yeah,
line that you're
Stafford
talking
had it.
about, but the typical thing that I've seen to
Maxville had
to request with the city of Maxville.
Yeah.
City of Maxville.
So there's included things like, they want to be able to put information on a digital message board as opposed to people coming in the office. They want to be able to put things on a website, which they don't currently have, as opposed to people coming in the office.
LED sign, it says.
Yeah, LED sign, that's a message board essentially, and they can put, I don't know where they'll put it downtown, but somewhere, if the office were closed, they'd still have a way of communicating information, was the way we would present that. Oh, yeah, the other part of Maxville's technology request was to be able to do online bill paying. Bless you. Credit card, debit machine, and the software to do online bill pay.
Looks like Stafford kind of did the same thing, just called it, use a different line, right?
Yeah.
Is it for the digital billboard, or is that?
Yes,
I
I
think,
think
yeah,
there were
that's-
two very similar things that they, and I didn't necessarily change. There are ways that you could process it differently on both of them. So one of them, you know, could go under economic development and things to implement social distancing. You could interpret it that way. You could, you know, interpret it as technology for remote work, I guess, if the employees are working remotely and still need to accommodate the, you know, public. That's,
No. Same thing, just ordered a little different.
So, what number are we at with everything everybody's asked for?
right at the full amount of $823,932.
Total
The summary,
capital
yeah, the
expenditures.
summary is on the very first page. It's small, it's that box second.
It's the bottom one. And then
Well, yeah.
the lines below that, or basically when that money's planning on being spent,
Yeah, which is just
guesstimation.
yeah.
But it has to be spent by,
By December.
By December, so I just, if they didn't designate something, I just put month of September, month of October, kind of, because I think most of them,
Most of it will be
They'll
the
want-
first month,
right.
because you've got to get this stuff ordered in the hopes you can still get it. It's
Yeah.
what Shannon, you know, with her stuff. That's
If
why
we
we left
order
her
it-
on there.
if we order it and pay for it and haven't received it, then are we still good if we don't have it by December?
I think we are,
I
as long
think
as we
we
don't
are.
spend
haven't
any
paid
money.
for it.
Yes.
I don't know how they would necessarily be able
They're
to
gonna
audit
know.
whether or not the
It's
box
A&I.
came from Amazon.
Yeah, they're not
you
gonna
know?
come and look for the whatever, but I think the thought is to get this stuff ordered on the way so we can still get it, hopefully.
And so on the initial review by Swindle, they've approved all this stuff?
We have adjusted a couple of things, but for the most part, I think they've, you know, it's, where we have adjusted is, so we talked about economic development receiving, you know, kind of the difference between what our initial quote was for accounting services versus what we're actually paying in account, and applying that toward, there's a category, under economic support, that's economic support strategy and planning. So essentially kind of a coordination role countywide, and that we could, you know, assign a fee to that. He's saying instead of putting it in like the county expenditure category with administration fees, that we should develop a program that economic development is carrying out, and that would include also the piece of it that was, we talked about, each of the three districts had talked about allocating something to the ministerial alliances to allow for increased food bank donations. Those are entities that don't have an EIN number, aren't, you know, are like just more informally organized. And if economic development, with the formality of the nonprofit, can administer that, that was one of the recommendations. There were, Stafford actually made a formal, you know, they put a line item in for their land bank to receive funds to do some of what they're doing for essential, and designate it for essential worker housing. I had put in guidance interpretation requests, two of them, to the state. One asking about, and it was very much in the context of our K-State house, if we have to pay more for local contractors to finish the house that the volunteer students didn't get done, and knowing that that was all disrupted, but they would have been here like 4 times through the spring, and they're here once now. if that could be something that was COVID related. And we got a vague interpretation of that. And then the second one was, whether we could pay for housing related. May funds be used to pay contractors for work and to purchase supplies to prepare housing for essential workers. That's the one, and I just got that answer today. They said, the determination of what is necessary to respond to the public health emergency is left to the reasonable judgment of the county. As you have described it, the expenditure appears to be focused on providing temporary housing in order to increase COVID-19 treatment capacity, assuming the expense was not budgeted, and the improvements are completed by December 30th, we believe these expenses would be eligible. So we can do some housing work by the interpretations that they've given us. And the one related to the K-State House, they also gave the interpretation of if it wasn't budgeted, well, it wasn't, so. So the capital outlay piece of this is where it includes the Stafford Land Bank's request. I had kind of found odds and ends to throw in there, you know, kind of when not all of it was adding up to a full 823,000. I would have made that a bucket to catch some of that in. And he also recommends defining it that it could also be grants to businesses. So, because we know that that's also going to be something that is eligible, and if we have to make adjustments, if they come back and tell us that aspects of this aren't eligible before the, before the state gives its approval, we need to come back and have something that is eligible, kind of the plan B, and that bucket would, unless there's other things we want to be ready with, throwing in there, but that bucket would be able to catch that. So, yeah.
So do we need to, before we approve sending this off, do we need to have the confirmation of the internal look over?
What you can do is authorize the submission of, we're not gonna send it in without their internal, secondary review, but it's not going to exceed $823,000. So unless there's specific guidance you wanna offer on, you think something should be included that isn't currently, or you don't like the way that, it's been divided among the entities or something like that, if you wanna give us guidance on something we need to change, I guess we can do that, but they don't require, like us to upload a copy of a resolution or something like that. So I think it can be handled in just a simple motion to approve, and a submission for direct aid not to exceed $823,932. And then
It's on the front page here. I guess we need to know if you think we need to add anything to our program or take away anything. Right?
The only thing I'm thinking about it is the health department, that if she's gonna be covered in phase two, then
She will be covered.
I think we've got enough in phase one,
To get her started is what we were thinking.
yes.
When will phase two come about? Or when it knows?
I didn't know.
yeah,
I
Are
can't
we
get past
good
phase
with
one.
this now?
Huh?
You good with this?
I'm good with it. I think we've covered all of our bases, basically.
do you have a sense of if Shannon had a surge in need, what it would be? I mean, I suppose if
Well,
anything, we
if
could
she-
put it in something besides PPE, if you don't think it's PPE, if you think it's testing supplies or something like that.
Her biggest thing was if she has to do like mass testing, she needs the tents and the refrigerators and, stuff like this is what we initially put on here to get ordered and get here. Because we don't know when phase 2 starts or
Yeah.
what it's gonna take to get that money. That's why we went ahead and left that on there. We thought, and with our uptick in cases, who knows what we might need.
But I mean, if a person
So-
thinks they have coronavirus, chances are they're gonna go to their doctor and get tested from their doctor, not from Shannon.
Most people, but
Yeah.
Could be a flip of the coin.
there'll be some that won't.
I mean, okay, well, how much
So,
testing? Where is the line? I mean, at some level, $60,000 for personal protective equipment. We only have 4,000
Right
people in the county, and how many, like,
So they're
running
twenty
to the
cent
hospital and
masks
testing
being
them
sure
there.
to
I know,
recover,
go-
right?
they can go
The
to
mat is the gown.
So there's no, I
Um,
mean, that's what I'm saying, if
they
people
can't
get
get
tested
gowns if they
somewhere
do
else,
their
does she need?
exorbitant prices.
I think she'd more likely use it in PPE.
Yeah, I do.
Just where we got it right now.
Yeah.
I don't think the testing is gonna get that big here. They're gonna go somewhere to do that.
Or, if they do come out with immunization, if she has to do dry immunizations or whatever.
But
She-
that's not gonna happen until phase
Yeah.
2.
Well, exactly, but she was concerned about getting this stuff ordered and getting it here because there was a shortage of.
I think we've got it
So would we need to
covered.
make a motion to approve?
Smart funding plan for that amount of money. For phase 1.
So- Yeah, so the motion would basically be the motion would be to approve, would it be for Nita to submit the Spark funding,
Actually, Carolyn is.
or
Or
Carolyn?
just the
Thank God.
application.
The application not to exceed this dollar amount? Okay. You get that all typed out, Nita?
Yeah, just a second.
Then read it back.
Okay. Wykoff moved, Ribbon second to approve the COVID-19 Spark funding spending plan not to exceed $823,932.
I make that motion.
Yeah, I make that second.
And I don't know if I'll repeat it exactly.
All in favor, say aye.
Yeah. Well, motion for the Spark funding of $823,932. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carried.
And just to close the loop on one of the questions Anita had posed to me this week about whether we've gotten MOUs from all of the other entities,
Yeah,
the
I
answer
wondered
is
about
like, no. But I did talk with the accountant to confirm my perception of this is you're not really, basically just don't distribute any of the funds.
The way
until you get
the
one.
way we have it set up, we don't need these, right? Because if I don't have an invoice from the city of Stafford for something that's on the list, I'm not gonna cut the
I
check.
think the other part of the MOU though that's significant is that they're essentially telling you if they spend it on something that after an audit becomes, ineligible, that they're paying you back for it. It's kind of that protection for the county that you won't have an unexpected, expense you have to pay back.
So we do want these.
So you do.
So I'll get these typed up and out to the cities and, the way we had it, we want to do it here is, we have that 823,000 sitting in a separate bank account. We want to run it through just like the voucher system, where, City of Stafford has an invoice for whatever, they're gonna get that invoice to us, we'll voucher it out. You guys will look it over, so you'll know what's going on, and that's the way we'll run it. I just think it's the simplest in my world,
It's a lot cleaner.
and I think that's the best way to track it.
Yep.
City of Stafford will have an expenditure fund in there, so we'll know when they hit their whatever.
Okay.
Sounds good.
And that way we can kind of, instead of just writing them a check for 100,000 and hoping like heck.
And, oh, by the way, we need the receipts for that.
Yeah.
Well, we don't have
We
it,
just-
well, forget it.
And Melissa agreed that this was the easiest way for us to do it is, Lisa and I'll do the legwork on the vouchers, that's not a big deal, but as far as the tracking, it's the best way to keep it, to where
Because we
we
definitely don't wanna
kind
be-
of know what's going on, because we don't,
That's the only way.
So things like, my, as far as like the MOU, so for example, we got a little more of a wishy-washy answer on the idea of the K-State bill, I'll just use that as an example. If we, use these funds to fill the gap of paying contractors, but otherwise volunteers would have done without COVID. They basically said, it's your judgment. Okay, well, economic development's gonna be in a position to come up with some way to pay it probably anyway. We aren't really any more at risk than we are right now if it comes back and sorry, after an audit, we have to pay it back. But that's what the MOU is saying, that economic development, right, pay it back.
We don't want to pay anything back.
Right,
Well, the
and that's
county
why,
for that, but yes.
that's why we'll get
We
these
don't
out
either.
to the schools and the
And
cities.
cities.
And until we get these signed back, we won't issue money. Is
No,
that good?
that's
Yeah.
correct.
But if we've gotten a guidance interpretation request on something and they approve it in the direct aid plan before we even take it back to start administering it, I think we're safe. But there's your second safeguard is having the MOU from each of the entities.
All right.
I think we better postpone the Port Authority meeting just a little.
I do feel
Fine
like
with
we've got
me.
some stuff
I already
to
have
share. We gotta
two
really
other
start
meetings
getting
to go
people's
to.
head in this
So
too,
So we're gonna postpone it till January?
Well, okay,
I mean, I'm
I-
getting tired of calling Justin and saying,
I know.
hey, the
Yeah.
meeting that I told you that we're having
or
tomorrow,
we
we're
could
not
do it
gonna do
tomorrow.
it.
I mean, maybe
I've
we
done
could
the
just
same
do it and have some point of beginning this. Okay, so I will know after 11 o'clock today a little more about round 2. And while I don't think it's it's not gonna be something that we can put full construction costs into, we might be able to get the, $120,000 worth of engineering costs put into it. And that would put us further down the road and maybe more, on the radar screen, even for KDOT, for trying to do a build grant with the US Department of Transportation. There might be value in trying to do that. So from that perspective, maybe it does make sense to have some discussion. I haven't.
So you're saying
haven't
that there
prepared
might, you're saying that there might be some kind of money that we could get out of this coronavirus deal? I would say that when we're guaranteed for sure that we can get some money, let's talk about setting a date at that point. But there ain't no use having a meeting on shoulda, coulda, woulda.
Well, but, okay, round 2 applications open up Thursday at 3 p.m. And some of these might go fast if it's first come, first served. That would be the flip side of that.
We've already had 2 canceled meetings, the next one better be set in stone.
Well, we could do something tomorrow and keep it short, have some beginning of orienting where we are right now.
Yeah.
And maybe, what do if we were to make a submission in round 2 for that 120,000, like real engineering, who needs to give me authorization to do that? Is that the county or the port?
Where's
Kind of right now, the
yeah,
port
where's the
really,
money coming from? The county?
county's money's coming from the state. We apply
Through the
for-
county?
Well, maybe not in round 2.
So the Port Authority would make a straight request to the county?
I think it could.
You say you know more after 11 o'clock
Hopefully
Tomorrow.
today?
today.
Yeah. So do you want to wait till after 11 o'clock and decide to cancel this meeting for tomorrow? Or cancel it and reschedule it?
Do we have a full slate of people to attend?
Have you guys notified your people? Because I have.
I have.
I've asked.
You understand where I'm coming from?
I do.
This is a busy time of the year.
I hear you.
Yeah. So while Mike's here, on our Port Authority, have you read any of the bylaws of the Port Authority? Okay.
I think we ought to do that too, myself.
Do what?
Read the, have Mike read the.
Yeah,
I do.
I think we should have
read them
Mike,
today,
We need
but
to have
they're
a
in
plan for
easy
what we're
reference
gonna do.
in my
Yeah,
office.
'cause
if
it's
you
my
want to take a look
understanding-
at 'em.
Just forward them over to Mandy and she'll.
it's my understanding that the Port Authority is the 3 commissioners.
Have them.
Each commissioner appoints a person, and so the person is on a 2-year term, you know, once they're appointed, they're 2 years. And then Carolyn, this is my understanding.
That was my understanding. I have not seen anything in
But I mean,
writing.
where they haven't met for a long time, I mean, I think all the terms are up,
Would have expired.
yeah.
Nope, I don't have the
So if Kurt appoints his appointee,
I don't know if I
then
have
he's
them.
on there for
They
2
left it
years.
electronically, surely
You know,
do.
it's
I just-
not
I
when
don't
Bryce
remember if
takes
I
his
have
term
them electronically.
in January.
Bryce would fill his term.
So as soon as Bryce comes on, then Kurt's appointee goes off, or he's got
No,
2
no, no,
years?
no, 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 no.
Yeah,
I would go on.
Kurt's
Yeah.
appointee would
I would take
stay.
his position
He
as a
would-
commissioner.
Yeah, Bryce would take the commissioner's role and Kurt would be done. Unless there's something different in the bylaws that say, but that would be the logic I would.
that Kurt would go off, Bryce would take Kurt's spot, but then Kurt's appointee.
Would stay.
So if Kurt appointed Bryce, or Bryce would have input into it,
You'd have to-
onto the
Bryce would
position,
then,
take Kurt's
Would you
spot.
want me to go
and
get
Kurt-
them?
and
So
that
we're
would
stop
be
speculating?
a vacancy.
That he could fill.
Can
That
I
I would put.
No,
take
you would
very long
fill
About an hour.
Kurt's vacancy,
Yeah.
Mike's gonna
then there
want
would be a
a while to look
vacancy
at it.
of
For my
the position,
appointment.
that the appointment that
And
you
then I
came
can
out.
appoint somebody, yes.
I think the board would appoint somebody.
We're speculating a lot right now.
Yeah, without looking at it.
That's why we need to read
So we
through
want
it.
to do it next week
Let's move that.
or not? I don't care.
But I do think it ought to be set in stone whenever we
What?
do. When we
I
meet,
Yeah.
we
I
will
think-
meet next time. So I think Mike ought to read through it, I'd like to read through it. I'd like to copy the bylaws.
I think Mike needs to read through it and give his legal opinion. I don't know if he needs to come to the meeting.
Can we have a committee meeting tomorrow that's not a formal Port Authority business meeting, but an opportunity to educate those involved with what the status of things is and what we may need to make a decision on in the near future?
Involving him.
People we think are gonna be on this time.
I think you'll lose out on funding if you don't.
What's that?
I think we may lose the opportunity for some funding if we wait too long.
That's fine with me.
I suppose that's legal, even though we really
I don't
don't
know.
have a law.
Doesn't
I'm
he
sure.
come
Is that
to the
legal?
Port
Could it
Authority?
be just an information meeting
Just an informational meeting.
or decisions?
I would think the first thing you ought to do when you walk in there is reappoint your board myself, but.
Yeah,
But then it doesn't turn out to be a.
but if you all three are meeting
Yeah, it's a
together,
real meeting.
Their meeting is the Port Authority Board though, not the county commissioners.
Yeah, legally, we couldn't even meet if it wasn't the Port Authority.
No, they are the Port Authority along with 4 other people.
And
but
from that
right now, you're not the
perspective,
Port Authority.
No, they're talking about tomorrow evening. Meeting is the Port Authority.
I would think
I'll
that.
say
But you're not the Port Authority.
Legal.
Well, the
Right.
three of
They
us.
They're
have
on the
designed it
Authority
such that
board.
they put themselves
I mean,
on the Port
it's
Authority
The
board.
three
The
commissioners.
three
But
of
the
us
last
have
time
it
this,
on there.
okay, help me out, the last time this board met, were any of the three of you
Yes.
county
Yes.
commissioners?
But when we appoint our Port
Two of us
Authority
were.
members,
Two of
we,
Okay, so he's not a member of the Port Authority.
He is as a member of the commissioners.
yeah.
I think he would.
But isn't
Well,
it
that
that-
depends on what the bylaws say. The
Well,
bylaws
that's true.
say
Them over here, they wanna
it was Shane
Yeah.
Steinman.
You wanna
Yeah.
sprint over and get
They'll
them?
get it.
But if we, who appoints the new member? The commissioners
Can we
or
adjourn?
the,
You're not the commissioners.
yeah.
Yeah, we don't have any other business, we're gonna take
You're-
care of
But
it.
if Carolyn and the 3 commissioners by the bylaws are members of the Port Authority and you have a meeting, even as a committee meeting, that's a quorum. So it would be a Port Authority.
It's a Port
meeting.
Authority board, it's not a commission meeting.
Yeah.
Correct.
So when those three open,
Don't make me go.
when those open spots,
You know,
what I was wondering is if we need to put the appointees in our normal commissioner meeting? Or do we, the 4 people that's on the Port Authority board, do those people make the open 3?
I would
It
think
would be
so.
Depends
that
on
way.
how your bylaws are written.
I would think it'd be the Port Authority's job.
Because I
Yeah.
mean, the way I understand it was, you know, being on the Port Authority of District 2, then I can appoint somebody out of my District 2.
Mhm.
Okay.
I think you're right, you can, I don't know if I'd use the word appoint, I think it's gotta be approved by the Port Authority Board, but we do, you have one representative from each
So I would
district.
appoint, and then the Port Authority board would
Would
approve.
accept it, yes.
Are
I
we
believe
still in
that-
session?
Yeah.
I mean, I guess the question goes back to me again, though, is we just had a discussion 5 minutes ago, did I need to be at the meeting? Because would I be there as the county counselor or be there as the attorney for, you know? If the Port Authority is not my client,
Yep,
You wouldn't.
you wouldn't need to
my
be.
my malpractice carrier might be a little upset with me for giving legal advice to people who aren't my clients.
Okay.
That's exactly where I was going too.
So even if she brings me the bylaws, I
Yeah.
don't know if I can
wanna make
give you, I can give you advice as county commissioners.
Yes.
But I don't think I can give you advice as Port Authority
I think you're
board
right.
members.
So the Port Authority almost needs to have some kind of a little type of money to where they can hire, or they can get legal advice, but they don't. I don't know.
You don't have any money.
But I mean, they
You don't
have,
have any money.
yeah, the Port
Well,
Authority,
it's
I mean, the
coming out
Port
of your
Authority hadn't met in
Before we
3
can
years.
levy money, it has to go through a vote of the county.
Yeah,
And
because the
Probably
county
tell you
can't,
how that vote
Yeah.
goes.
That's why we haven't done it.
Exactly.
You still want to adjourn or have this
You
on?
might as well adjourn
Just-
because you're not,
You want to adjourn?
Yeah.
you're
Yeah,
done
it's
with
fine.
county business.
We'll adjourn.